Welcome to Behind the Glass Mixing Live Worship. My name is David Glenn, and I've been blessed to mix multiple multi-platinum records from artists like Redimidos, Dr. Toomey, Blanca, Jeremy Rosado, and many more. I'm pumped to bring you this exclusive behind-the-scenes course for free right here on YouTube. In this series, we're diving deep into mixing live worship from the raw tracks to a polished, powerful mix that translates well in churches, streaming platforms, and beyond. All of the videos from the course will be made available here on the channel, and then if you want to get your hands on the Multitracks to follow along, my exact mix template available for most modern DAWs, my custom drum samples, multiple more mix breakdowns like the one you're about to watch, and on and on. I'll post a link in the description where you can get instant access to all of that, as well as some free guides to help steer you in the right direction with your mixing journey. Lastly, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single video in this free series. With that, let's dive in and start mixing. Up next, we've got the bass guitar. We also have a synth bass, and then if you stay with me till the end, I'm going to go ahead and show you a bonus tip. We're going to show how to create the synth sub-bass track to match the vibe of Cody Carnes' Be Glad. Incredible programmed synth bass holding down the bottom end on that song, and it just is super pure. So we'll show you what we did here to create that for this song. But first up, let's hear the bass with no processing. I've got everything bypassed, and then we'll look at the plugins for the bass DI. And then I duplicated the DI and created this drive kind of distorted bass track that will show you why and how and all that good stuff. So here's the bass with no processing. Got our snare kind of splashing out there, but I think you hear the point. The bass, clean DI signal, a little something weird going on. We got some frequency issues, some hum or something on the top end, which will become a problem for us with that bass as you'll see the processing as I turn on the different plugins. But we deal with it and we make it work for the song. Something that I noticed big time was the dynamics difference between these two sections. And if we take this out of solo, let's go ahead and listen. Just in the context of the whole track, I don't think the whole song dies down the way that this bass was performed. No, the song stays on a high until after that part, but the bass energy at which the player is picking through it kind of dies down. And so all the more we're going to need the bit of processing that we're going to showcase here, which is a lot of compression and a lot of evening out the performance. So we could use clip gain if I would have caught that, at the beginning, but this is the first time I actually just highlighted that little section and heard it. But the processing is going to take care of that for us. So let's kick it off. We've got FabFilter Saturn is my go-to. It's the first plugin I use when mixing bass. And the thing that I like about it the most is this dynamics control here. Sure, the drive, and it has multiband, and you can EQ and all kinds of stuff. But if you look here, each individual band, the only thing I've done is manipulate the dynamics control. And so we start down here at the bottom. This is everything 120 hertz and below. The next band here in the middle is 600 to 120, and then 600 to about 4K, and everything above 4K is getting muted at that crossover, and we got 24 dB per octave crossover, the slope for the octave, the dB per octave slope there. So start down here. What is the first move I do? It's very simply, I hit play, we'll turn this on, and I just start at 0, and I slowly boost the bass sustain. So dynamics control, what's it doing? Clockwise, it's giving us the bass sustain. We're increasing the sustain. So similar to like taking a transient shaper and increasing the sustain. And then if we go counterclockwise, we go the opposite way, that's going to be more like a gate. We're going to be tightening the decay. It's a cool snare preset that maybe I'll show you in another video that uses that feature. But for this one, we were going on the side of increasing sustain. And we did that. What I'll do is I'll go band by band, usually end up around the same place for each of them, but sometimes this upper mid-range band needs even more to help even out picked bass parts, finger bass part, really slap bass even. Sometimes I really crank down on this one, but they all kind of ended up the same on this song. But being in multiband gives me the flexibility to maybe the low end was recorded and the low end reacted to the tracking compressor more than the rest of it. And so maybe the low end is a little more even sometimes. And so having the multiband allows me to do this process individually for each band. So let's take a listen. Here's with it, and then I'll take it out, and you should be able to feel a pretty drastic difference, and we'll solo it. So can you tell the difference? Let's go to the end of the section here where he kind of falls off on us. Here's without the plugin. Kind of uninspiring, right? And then we've reined it in. So no compressors were harmed in the making of that sound, just the dynamics knob from FabFilter Saturn 2. FabFilter Saturn 1 will also give that same parameter for you. I don't think there's any difference. So if you already have FabFilter Saturn 1, it's a mouthful, you're good to go. So moving on, we got some compression. So I really love to lock the bass in. I like it to be ultra compressed. I like that sound. If you like maybe a more open sound and then you like to ride the fader, then by all means. But we're going to show you the mix breakdown for this song, and I've used a ton of compression. So already a massive improvement using FabFilter Saturn 2. Now we're going to hit it with this 1176, and we've got kind of a slow to medium attack. 1176, that's still a pretty fast attack, but we're going to use the fastest release, 4-1, and check this out. So obviously a massive difference. We're just gripping that, and we're going to hit it with one more compressor. We've got VMR with their Distressor FG Stress from Slate Digital. And you can see I've got the mix knob working for me here, about 52% or so. What is that? 51%. I was off by 1%. And here's what that sounds like in, and then I'll take it out. So we've got a massive sound, we got massive drums, the mix is huge, and we got to make sure that that bass stays consistent and even, and the way to do that is compression in stages. And so that parallel compression, definitely pulling it, rounding it out, filling it out, staying on top. And then we've got a series of processing. Now, a little bit crazy here, but stay with me because I needed this bass to cut through the mix. And in order to do that, I had to boost a ton of the mid-range. We've got the drums are slamming, her voice is living in that mid-range, and I don't like when bass just kind of controls the bottom end. R&B, think of some pop, but mostly R&B is what comes to mind, and you just have that kind of like deep subs to like maybe 400 hertz or so, like just that's all that is living in the track. I love it for R&B, not a huge fan for worship or rock or whatever. I like to drive the mids and get some character out of them. And so this is me chasing a sound. I say that often, the spaghetti mess of EQ, but there is a method to the madness, and I'm going to kind of share that. So I felt like the subs were a little bit out of control, so I pulled them back here. Usually I'm boosting because all the time I get bass that's been high passed to like 100 hertz. It's the worst. But usually I'm boosting and trying to give as much bottom ends as I can to the bass guitar. Here, I felt like I had a good recording, so just dialing that back a little bit. Low mids were a little out of hand, and so I pulled those back here. Controlling that a bit. Again, don't need so much of this like 600 hertz stuff, 1K. I really just wanted the pick action to cut through more. And so let's listen with the EQ, and then I'll turn it off. So we solved a problem, but we kind of created a problem. There's a bit much of this upper frequency stuff, but I needed it, but I need now to compress against that even more. The compression's really reacting to the subs and the low mids. I needed to react more to that, and so we're going to follow that up with a Pro MB, and now I'm compressing against that top end. So we're controlling the peaks. We're making sure nothing like just spits at us. And then we followed that up with, similar to what we did with the kick and the snare, I've got the kick, when it hits, pushing down the top end in the bass. I got some clipping, some distortion from it, having that kind of hot. And so having this on, I think we're going to actually solo the kick and bass together to be able to get that plugin to work. But we'll do this with the drums, and then we'll come over here with the bass. I mean, barely there. There must have been, I think there was a fill or something where I pushed the kick up, and so that between that and the top end and the bass, it created a problem, and so I'm solving that problem there. But let's come back here. Let's take a listen to the next track in the bass folder here, which is the drive bass, and we've got Saturn II again. This is a copy of what was above. We've got the 1176, the distressor, but now things change because we're going to add some mid-range boost into, let me see if we can copy that as well, the CLA based plugin. This changes for me all the time. This is actually, I think, one of the first times I've ever used a CLA based plugin on a drive bass, but I liked it and we rocked it. Often this will be one of the bass amps from Plugin Alliance. This could be one from UA. What's the one? The Slate Overloud THU is another good one. And I'm just looking for some mid-range character. Sometimes it's the Waves bass, I guess the Waves bass amp I've used before, but I was thinking more like the tool rack. I think they call it the tool rack, where you can add pedals, and I'll throw like a tube screamer or the distortion, the old DS1, and just play with different sounds. I like to get creative with the bass drive. I don't like to do the same thing over and over for every record. But here you can see we're rocking the wall, so we're hitting it more compression, the rest in peace distortion, and the chorus is on for this one as well. So let's hear that. Let's hear it actually off, and then we'll turn it on. Pretty trashy sounding on its own, but I needed that for the upper harmonics, for some distortion character, and to blend it in with the original. Let's look at this EQ, and you'll see I don't want any subs. I didn't want anything of anything, it looks like. I drop in subs, the lows, the mids, and the top end, but just trying to shape this to give me something that I could blend in and sound good with the DI. Let's check it. Here's without it, and then we'll put it back in. Yeah, so you can clearly hear it sounds good. I think it sounds good, even in solo, but it's going to add that character for the mid-range to help it cut on smaller speakers. And then I like the tone. I like bass driven with some saturation, with some distortion. And so we've got that sounding great together, but again, in solo, not very good. And then now the two of those meet at the bass level track, which is where we're going to show off some more processing. We've got the STL Tone Hub again. My man Neil Avron, what an incredible mixer. Switchfoot, I'm a huge Switchfoot guy. From their original stuff. I think the first time is crazy. I fell in love with Switchfoot. I grew up in Orlando, and we had a water park called Wet n Wild. It has since closed because Universal opened Volcano Bay. Won't get into that. The nostalgia of Wet n Wild. Some of y'all, you even know what I'm talking about. But I was in the wave pool. I can't remember how old I was. Was I 10, 12, 13? I can't remember. But I'm in the wave pool, having a blast. And then Switchfoot comes on stage for the Summer Nights concert that used to take place. And holy cow, man, they rocked. And I fell in love and started copying their stuff as a guitar player. It was, anyways, but Neil Avron, hugely responsible for a lot of their stuff. And I dig his sound. I love his records. Yellow Card, Francesca Battistelli, man, and on and on and on and on. This guy, he's just a musical genius. But this is his preset pack, and this is one that I chose, the 05 Low End Theory. And it does shape the bass quite a bit. So let's hear it on, and then I'll turn it off. Tell you what, I was wrong. It didn't change it that much. It maybe tamed it a little bit in the mids. Usually I use there's another preset he's got that I drive like crazy for rock stuff and blend it in parallel. But yeah, this one, pretty chill. Let's move on and check out the Pro Q3. That low end that we took out on the first one, now in context with the mix, I feel like I need a little bit more. So we added 2 dB at 60 and below. And then I'm really sucking out more low mids. They're kind of getting away from me with the bass. And so pulling that back a bit here. Let's hear it on and then off. Yeah, getting some artifacts in there from the Saturn for the original the performance. I would usually go in and clip gain those down, but that being said, we're moving on. Let's check out this 1176. Still in the context of the mix, I was listening, I was referencing, hearing my man Doug Weir, his mix felt more compressed. Listened to the Multitracks from multitracks.com. I felt like the bass was compressed quite a bit more than mine was, even with all that going on. And so I hit it with another compressor, hit it with the 1176 Rev A, and medium attack, fastish release, and we get this. Let's go to a different section. The popping is me turning it on and off. For some reason, we're getting that glitchy. But yeah, so we're moving on. Last step in the processing for the main bass tone is the sidechain compression. I'm using the kick drum to push down the bass for the initial hit, the attack. Usually pretty fast. That actually should have been here. But fast attack, fast release, and you're going to see it pushing it down quite a bit. Let's come up here and we'll solo the drums and the bass together and see what we get here. You'll see the bass compressor moving. Everything 125 hertz and below is going to push the bass down for that initial attack of the kick drum. So just a little bit happening on this track. It's in my template, and sometimes I use quite a bit more of that, but I really like where the kick and the bass are living, so maybe this was not even necessary for this particular song, but it's something I use quite often. If you get the kick is clashing with some of the notes in the bass and the low end, it's a great way to just isolate the kick for the initial attack. And so there we go. Let's take a look at this track bass here. We got a couple bits of processing on it. Let's hear it in solo with no plugins. Turn the drums off for you guys so you can just hear what we're doing on the bass. So you can hear it's pretty muddy having that on top of our heavy low-end bass guitar. And so EQ-wise, what's the first step? We're just cleaning up the low end, getting it out of the way of the bass guitar. I want the bass to live down low, not the synth bass. Muddy. Much cleaner. And if you've got a sub pack or a sub in your room, you certainly would be able to hear that difference. Cleaning it up, you get just a much more defined low end, nice and clean. Next up, a limiter. I'm taking the L1, old school kind of thing. You grab the link, you just pull it down until you get a little bit and just lock that instrument in place. And for this one, I wanted to kind of sit it more consistently. I actually didn't even use it. It looks like I started to do what I was just describing to you, but then I backed it off. And so we just have the this serving as a level. It's not even compressing. But then tried a little bit of an effect to see, can we make it sound cool? Get it out of the way of the middle of the bass. It's just living right down the center where the bass is. Let's see, could we maybe do some stereo spread and get something cool from this? And so we put the real ADT on. My favorite preset, I go to this almost every single mix. I'm using this preset on something. Sometimes it's an acoustic, sometimes it's backing vocals, but 2 guitars are better than 1. And then what I do is I back off the drive control. Depending upon the song, I may or may not drive more or less from the preset. But let's take a listen with it, and then I'll take it out. Okay, so kind of mixing 101, if you've got 2 instruments that are clashing, pan them to opposite sides of the song and see, did you solve your problem? And so here, having the track bass right on top of the bass guitar right down the middle, just wasn't feeling it. So get them out of the way of each other, and this is what we arrived at. Here's the final result, and then I'll put it back in mono so you can hear the 2 on top of each other. Let's back that up a little bit. So you can just hear mess, busy, nasty, bleh, and then we put all that in. We still get the producer's intent to have that bass synth, but it's out of the way and a much cleaner mix to listen to. So bass goes down, it goes to our low-end bus, and on this particular song, we just have VMR, and that's it. So virtual mix bus, hitting that, and I'll hit it pretty hard. Sometimes I'll distort it. We'll see. Gain staging is nice and clean on this one. I actually like the sound whenever it gets a little bit fizzy on bass because it adds some top end grit to it. But on this one, we kept it kind of clean. So there we go. You can hear my voice cracking there. I said if you stayed with me through the bass processing, we would show off the synth sub bass. So let me know in the comments down below if you made it to the synth sub bass. And then don't forget, if you have any questions about anything that we're doing here, let me know and we'll answer that in the comments down below. Okay, so synth sub bass. I heard the Cody Carnes Be Glad track. Let's go ahead and pull that up. And we'll play that one more time. Where is... Did I pull it in yet? Be Glad. There we go. Let's go to playback. Let's turn this on. And we're just going to go from the top. Let's hear that come in. Yeah, so that nasty synth sub bass sounds incredible, and I'm going to show you how I created that. Let's come over here, and if I remember correctly, I forget. Did I? I think I kept the. Oh, that's what that other EQ was. This right here. So I have a high pass filter inactive at the end of the chain, and that was for the bass guitar when using the synth sub bass. And so we're not using anything 100 hertz and below is gone. And then we've got this synth sub bass. So let's check it out without the synth sub bass. So you can hear that high passed bass.
Come on, we come alive in him.
So here we just got a high-passed bass. We got the low, mids, and the mid-range character from our bass, but not the subs. And then here we have the sub synth bass that we generated using just pretty much a pure sine wave. Let's take a listen to that in solo. Cool. So I'm not a professional programmer by any means, but let me go ahead and show you the process of what I was doing. I was a guitar player through and through, and then kind of dabbled with production on the keyboard side of things, but I'm terrible on a keyboard. So it's a lot of trial and error. But let's come over here and we'll create, we'll do a stereo, and we'll just say synth bass. And what I did is I created the wrong type of track. So we got to delete that, try again. And we're going to create an instrument track. So we'll go instrument track, and we're going synth bass. And so now what I did in Pro Tools, we have this awesome feature. You can click and grab the audio and drag it onto an instrument track and tell it, what do you want it to follow? Melodic? Do you want it to be percussive, automatic? I think I chose melodic. Let's check that. And so it created the bass part for that synth bass. And now let's see, is it pretty? So I remember going through and manual, tweaking it, but you can see got us in the ballpark. And then I think I brought it down an octave for some notes and put it back up an octave. But that's my starting point, was simply dragging that down and then slapping a synth plugin on. So we'll get rid of that. You can seen that process now. And then we come over here to DS Thorn. I believe this was the Plugin Alliance subscription. Slate comes with one. Those of you who are watching and maybe you even care about this, you probably already know your kind of go-to synth generator here. But the settings that I used are on the screen. And I pulled in a YouTube video and just kind of looked like pure. I knew it was a pure sine wave, but I was just like, what's going to get me there? And I can't remember the video I watched, but I watched one, kind of learned quickly the bit of the different options on this one, and then just ended up going with a pure sine wave down below. Nothing fancy. Let's turn that off and you can hear it. I don't know why I'm getting so many glitches. I think because I'm doing the video recording at the same time as having a full-on session running for you guys. But that's the sound. And then did this kick sidechain thing again. So copy that over, and probably doing a little bit more of it because we have such a pure sound from the synth generating plugin there. Let's come back up and let's play the drums and the new bass guitar with the high-pass filter. So this is using the synth sub bass. Yeah, so you can hear it's just pure. If we turn that, mute that, mute that and turn off our high pass filter. Here's the way we mixed it without the synth sub bass. So neither sounds bad. I really like both. For my version, I opted to go for the live bass, but pretty awesome. I think the biggest thing was we just had some of the notes were disappearing with the sub synth because I tuned them so low, and so I was new to that. But it was something I heard in the Cody Carnes track, and I thought, man, let me at least try to recreate that and see, is it better? And it's not better or worse. It's just different. So you be the judge for you. But now you know the exact settings and how we arrived at that. And that being said, that wraps up the mix for the bass. We looked at everything and the bus. The only other thing to talk about would be how the bus plugins, how the bass reacts to that. And so we'll look at that at the mix bus video. But that being said, let's move on. I will see you in the next video.